The fix is in. The Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more.
Sports Fix listeners, don't wait all day or all week to get in on the fun. The party doesn't stop when we go off the air all week long. The Sports Fix social media sites are your one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports. Jump over to Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, and become a fan today because we love fans and they create some of the best sports talk in town, Daddy. You'll enjoy talking to your fellow Cleveland sports fans on the Sports Fix fan page. And if Twitter's your thing, well, you know how we do it. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. It's that simple.
Twitter.com/TheSportsFixCLE, baby.
Chat live with the crew during all your favorite Cleveland sports events, tickets and contests and trivia and so much more. Get with us today, The Sports Fix on social media. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Join The Sports Fix on Facebook and Twitter today.
This is Greg Pruitt, formerly of the Cleveland Browns, and you're listening to The Sports Fix.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
Welcome in, everybody. We are live on the air, wrapping up the week edition of the Sports Fix here live across the Sports Fix Radio Network. J-Rock back with you guys, and man, I'm not gonna lie, man. You know, I've got kids. It's their my youngest son. He literally went to school in pajamas today. Dad, it's pajamas. It's Grinch Day. We're not doing anything but laying around and watching movies. I said, that's the life, man. I said, man, I missed that, man. But it felt like that putting today's show together. I'm like, man, I don't want to do this, but we got to do this. I mean, I love doing this. I don't mean I don't want to do this, but, you know, you start to get into it last few days here. Man, I cannot believe it. I have so much stuff still left to do for the holidays here. It's hit me so fast. Every day I turn around, I get done work, and I go, man, that's another day gone. I'm going to have to work on that tomorrow. Go do that shopping tomorrow. Go get this done tomorrow, man. And then there's just always another tomorrow. It never turns into today. So this weekend's going to be loaded too. But, man, anyways, just had that feeling today putting the show together. I said, you know what? We're just going to have some fun today. We're going to be like those kids in the pajamas sitting around watching the Grinch and eating, drinking hot chocolate, and we're not actually doing schoolwork today. We'll talk a little bit here. I guess we got to talk some sports. I've got some things to get into, of course. Normally today, Jonathan Knight, sports writer extraordinaire with us. We have hit the holiday season here this week, next week, really for the next, I'd say, 2 weeks. The show's going to be moved around, jumbled around. Even when we're on the air, guests are not going to be in their usual spots. And we're going to get them in where we can fit them in, you know, because everybody's out of town moving around. BSK yesterday was in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Dan Wismar halfway across the country next week. Everybody's all over the place. So no Jonathan Knight today. He apologizes, unable to be with us here. Still got the usual suspects as we get into another Browns game this weekend. Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com. He's going to be with us here today. As he does every week, he looks at the opponent for the Browns, puts together the scouting report. This week, it's the Carolina Panthers. And hey, man, they're fighting for first place over there in the NFC South, man. We'll talk about that. Jeff Gorman, we'll talk about Cam Newton. Is he going to go? I think so. It looks like he's going to be the guy to go here for the Panthers. Jeff Gorman has the scouting report on Carolina. Ryan Ruiz, I said it. He's got his work cut out for him today. He's always hopeful, but hard on the sleeve or not, man. I want to see what Dawg Bones he dug up. Hey, listen, it's not like, and you know what? I'm going to open the phones for this too. I'm curious to take your temperature, you guys, on where you're at this weekend with the Browns. Are you looking to see the Browns compete? Do you think the Browns can win this game? Do you expect the Browns to win? Do you expect them to lose? Will you be happy if they just show up? What about number 2? What do you expect to see out of him different this week than you did last week? What will make you feel good? Obviously a win. I hate to do that, see, because then you're already expecting a loss. I'm not trying to go that way because, it is the NFL and anything can happen. And if the Panthers don't show up or if the Browns do, then absolutely the Browns can win this game. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I expect them to. The way the team appeared last week, it's that point in the season that you see, not just a Browns thing, although we see it every year, but it's a football thing. When you reach the end of a season where a team's broke, spiritually, just, they've put all they've got out there, and at some point it stops coming back, man, and that's about where they're at. Can they dig it deep, give you one more good one? I would hope so. They're all professionals. Hell, a lot of these guys they're not guaranteed jobs next year, or if they are, it's not guaranteed to be here. So there's still a lot of reasons for guys to play football, man. I find it too easy to just dismiss the last 2 weeks of this season, but I don't want to see ugliness. Good Lord. Can't see what we saw last week either. But what do you expect to see? I'm going to open up the phones here, take advantage of actually having some time here at the beginning of the show before we get rolling with guests to get your thoughts on that when I open up the phones. I want to hear from you guys. Jeff Gorman, Ryan Ruiz. We're talking Cavaliers as well. We'll get into the Monsters. Big win for them last night. Just a few minutes from now, I want to talk football, but it's got nothing to do with the Browns here to start off the show. We've got a lot of things to get into. Vikings, they gave it a game effort against the other Cavaliers, not the Cleveland Cavaliers, Virginia. Let's do it. Let's do all of that and more. Time to kick off the Sports Fix. Welcome in, my friends. I am your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone, J-Rock Jerry Myers, with you guys here every day, noon. You know how we do it across the Sports Fix radio network, whether you're listening on TuneIn and their radio and digital apps, maybe you're listening on Spreaker, their respective digital mobile apps, all the different places. Spreaker blasting us out there, and I really appreciate the love that we get from them as we've really kind of grown that Spreaker audience through working with them on some stuff here that you may have noticed with us if you listen to the show. Those of you listening on Mixlr as well, and Mixlr.com, and everybody streaming us directly off of our home base where it all launches every day, thesportsfix.net. Make sure you bookmark that as well. Welcome in all of you, thousands around the world each day that listen on, and literally around the world. I was talking to somebody the other day and just I pulled up one of the stats for the last 30 days and I'm reading and I'm like, can you believe this? Where? How? So, anyways, we talk about that all the time. It's just an amazing testament to you guys being all over the place, Cleveland fans everywhere. All of you around the world, as I said, who listen on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, all the podcast and downloading and feeding and subscribing, all the different ways that you guys get the show. Thank you so much for being a part of it each and every day here and be a part of the show. As I said, I want to hear from you, especially here today. Let's get some voices on the show. 216-539-7535, the number to call. I know some people tried to get in during the week at various times. We weren't able to open up the phones. Now is your chance. End of the week. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. Pick up the phone. Give me a call. I want to hear from you guys. Your thoughts. What do you look to see out of the brand? And listen, I'm not looking for 5 minutes. Let's bash number 2. I don't care about all that today. Now, I don't want to hear. I'm not saying don't be real, but what do you realistically expect to see? What is progress for you from Johnny Manziel? Do you expect him to flip a switch? So some people still do. Do you expect it to take some time? Will you be happy just to see a couple of first downs? I'm being sarcastic, but what do you look to see out of the Cleveland Browns this weekend? As I get the phone lines open, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. Oh, first off, a little bit back to yesterday. We were talking right at the end of the show. It appeared imminent, and now it has happened. Rondo, man, talk about the West continuing to shake out there, man. The Cavaliers, I was talking to some buddies last night. We were looking at the standings. Cavs would be, I believe they would be, they may be the 8th seed, or they would be like a half a game behind over in the West right now. And the West just got even tougher with that trade we were talking about yesterday going through. Rondo, goes to the Dallas Mavericks and really gives them a formidable squad here as they're doubling down on that. And a big deal, too. Look, the Celtics, and I know this next part of what I'm going to say sucks. We've talked about this here enough in Cleveland. I can't stand the stripping it down to build it back up. And Boston was kind of riding the fence there, trying not to go all the way but still they were heading this path. Everybody knew it. You've seen the trade-off. That's the final one there after Garnett and Pierce fall away. Now goes Rondo. But the Celtics are now set over the next 4 years. They've got 8 first-round draft picks in the next 4 drafts coming up. I mean, that is how you not just rebuild, but reload quick. I mean, just imagine, you hit just on 50% of those, and you've pulled yourself 3, maybe 4 quality starters, perhaps all-star level players out of that grouping of draft picks. And that's what you need there, man. And they're yours, and they're homegrown, or you've got a truckload of arsenal here, much like the Cavs had if you wanted to make a deal, say you decided to skip that and you wanted to speed that up for the fans. But I mean, that's 8 first-round picks in 4 years is a heck of a haul. Boston, for Rondo, they ended up getting a first-rounder next year, a second-rounder in 2016. They got a nearly $13 million trade exception because of the difference in the salaries that came in and went out. And they picked up Brandon Wright, Jameer Nelson, and Jake. I like Jake Crowder, by the way, when he came out of Marquette. That was one that I think the Cavs, I think they drafted him and then traded him in part of the draft and swap to get, was it Tyler Zeller? But anyways, I like Jake Crowder's game coming off the bench. I think he's a good guy there, brings some stuff to a team. But yeah, Celtics trade out Rondo, and now the Mavericks, like I said, that's starting 5. You've got Dirk, you've got Rondo, Tyson Chandler, and Chandler Parsons, and Monte Ellis. The West just got harder to get through, and even if the Cavs figure out how to get through the East, they've now got one more very formidable person to deal with over there in the form of the Dallas Mavericks. And Dallas was already 19-8 to start the season, and they've just bolstered that squad a little bit more. I'm going to be really interested to see Rondo rejuvenated, playing back in a winning championship level environment, that competition, see the spark it puts back in his game, because, we were talking about it a little bit at the end of the show yesterday. Rondo is not end of the road. He's towards the beginning of that journey there, but he's not end of the road final season type stuff either here, man. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch that there. I like watching sociological experiments in sports like that. But Rondo, official, heads over there. Basketball trading season getting rolling here now, as teams are now able to trade those guys that they signed. They're able to trade those draft picks. Now teams are able to trade everybody, and now nobody can trade Stevenson, though. Seems like the Hornets having some trouble there trying to deal Lance Stevenson. Speaking of hoops, real quick, you guys, how about the Vikings? I teased it a little bit at the beginning of the show. It never really, I don't want to say competed, because the Vikes never got closer than a dozen points in this game, but they took on Virginia. I'm just going to tell you guys, for those of you that did not see the game last night, when you get to March Madness and you start filling out your brackets, I'm just going to recommend now that when you're looking for your fancy upset picks, stay away from Virginia for a while, because they've got the kind of defense that is going to go a long way. I'm not sitting here telling you Virginia's going to win the tournament, but they've got the kind of defense that gets you a long way in the tournament, and we saw some of that again last night as they jumped out to 10-0 on the season now. Vikings fall to 5-6. Speaking of 10, not 10-0, but 10 minutes and 5 seconds was the stretch of time that Virginia held the Vikings without scoring last night. Imagine how long, and in real time that felt like a half an hour, but imagine holding a team over 10 minutes without a point. Vikings, though, kept themselves in the game when they should have been blown out over that 10-minute stretch, because their defense was pretty strong too. End of a 10-minute run of not scoring, and the Vikings were still only down 16-4. And I say only because you should be down a whole lot more than a dozen points when you would go 10 minutes without scoring a point. Not without making a bucket. I mean without scoring a point. That is a long scoreless streak. Vikes defense held them into it, but you can only hold off a team like that for so long, no matter how strong you are. And once again, Vikings fell right into the same. I think teams are shooting. Vikings were a bit above the average. Teams are averaging only 31% against the Vikes. Vikings were able to shoot 36.5% last night, and they hit 7 3-pointers, but it was far from enough